Hi, this is Mike Lurcock with the third of 3 blogs about raising funds for your new business. So we've covered building up the business plan financials and putting together an investment memorandum. Now I'm going to talk through the investment raise process as well. So the first thing is actually to work out where you want to get your investment from, and there's a pecking order for this. And the first thing is actually try to manage without needing any cash investment at all. If you can do this on a shoestring, and there's some good books about this, then you do really well not to need investment at all. You must also start with trying for grants, because that again is something you don't have to give shares or equity of the business up for. So the pecking order proper begins with your own savings. Remember, the more of your own money you put in, the less you're going to have to give out in the way of profits and value of the business later to other people. Then you can widen the net a little bit more and involve friends and family. Now that's obviously got good and bad aspects to it. The good thing is they can be tolerant, and if it goes well you can feel great about sharing in the success. Unfortunately, if it all goes wrong you could be quite embarrassed, so think about how much you're willing to take and allow friends and family to expose themselves with. The next thing you could do is to not have to pay cash, but to build up what we call sweat equity, so that's shares for work instead. Again, what you would have been paying someone a wage for, maybe you can offer them some equity for some or all of the work that they do. Then you start to get down the pecking order to the people that invest predominantly for cash returns. So your first area and your main area for most fundraisers is business angels. So these are private individuals that invest in businesses that they understand that they can contribute and help with. If you get to the big time after that, maybe a few years later, you'll be going to venture capitalists and maybe even floating on a stock exchange. We all dream. So everybody that invests in a business should also be thinking that there's a possibility they'll be asked to follow on or to add more money later, because with the best will in the world, when you make a plan, it sometimes takes a little longer or is a bit more expensive than you want or than you would wish. Now, for a business angel, they invest in a number of businesses. Some of them go to nothing, some of them are successful. So when they're looking at your business plan, they are looking for a business that will have a possible upside that's maybe 10 times the return of the cash they put in the first place. And that will cover them for their losses on other less successful or complete failure investments. They will be very interested to see about your own remuneration. We've covered this before, but you need to stage that. You need to be modest about it in the early stages, because effectively they're putting their hands in their pockets to pay your wages. So the less you can rely on that in the early days, the better. Now, you also need to budget for the fundraise costs themselves. So that includes preparing the documentation if you get someone's help on that, the introductory fees that you may have to pay a business angel association, and that could be 3–5% of the total fundraise. And of course, once you get that big yes, you're going to need to pay lawyers to draw up the shareholders agreement, and maybe the memorandum and articles need to be modified as well for your company. So you need to make it quite clear, and you need to be able to talk about the amount of equity on offer. You also need to have an idea of how much you would be willing to maybe flex on that as well. Now the interesting bit, and we've all seen Dragon's Den, is to prepare your elevator pitch. So you have 30 seconds, at most 2 minutes, to stand up, explain about your business, what you're aiming to do, and why people should invest in you especially. So you also need to explain about the current stage of your business and how you're going to develop the business from the stage it's currently at. And again, same as the investment memorandum, you need to be giving a clear idea about the market potential. And quite often that is best done in a scenario analysis that talks about maybe a faster establishment or some other sort of multiple, a big kickstart that makes your business grow faster than expected. All the way through the fundraise process, the investor is going to be trying to understand what makes you special. So you need to explain if your USP is in the team, in some sort of clever invention. And don't forget, these things get copied eventually, so you need to not only cover the IP protection, whether it's the patent or the copyrights or the know-how, but also the more gentle barriers to entry. Things like the cost of buying kit, the fact that maybe you've got some special way to build up relationships with customers that's going to cost an entry or a new entrant quite a lot of money and time. Your team needs to be explained, and it's really good to get your team in front of investors. They'll probe, they'll ask questions, and a good business angel will bring extra skills and some extra contacts to help your business grow. At all times during the fundraise process, the investor is going to be looking for indications of your integrity, how well you work together, and that is really important to them, because it's not when things go well, it's when things start to get tough that you're going to have to work effectively. Keep notes of your meetings. Then you can have the same answers and consistent answers to different investors. When an investor's seen your 2-page summary, before you show them the full investment memorandum, you need to have a non-disclosure agreement for them to sign. Sometimes they may be just fishing around for ideas and information, and they wouldn't be willing to sign an NDA. You're much better to break that discussion there than to go further down and let them see your investment memorandum. If you're lucky enough to get through to a number of investors that are willing to invest, you'll get to the stage where you need to raise a note that says the heads of the terms and the legal agreements. It's really helpful if you can identify what we call a lead investor. It's usually the person with the largest amount of money, but in particular, they're the person that has the experience of the sector, and all the other investors will sort of tuck in behind them and say, if it's good for them, and if they've had a discussion with you, we'll adopt their opinion. So the only other thing you need to think about for all the way on this fundraise process is who you will use as advisors. Now, there's regulatory rules. You need to be regulated unless you're a director of the business, in which case you are able to go out and raise funds for yourself. The other thing, and it's hardly ever used, is to make sure that your documentation has the appropriate disclaimers on it. Other than that, it's a fairly logical process, and if you're honest and you go out and you explain about your business, you may well find a few people that are interested in helping you. Good luck.